Hello and good morning. Hello and good morning. Buenos dias. Thank you, Michael, for that wonderful upbeat start to our service. I'm Paula Peace, a proud member of the UU Fellowship of San Miguel de Allende. We have a number of new faces joining us today in this first ever joint Sunday service between the San Miguel and Lake Chapala UU Fellowships. Hola y buenos días. Soy Paula Peace, un miembro orgulloso de la Compañerismo Unitario Universalista de San Miguel de Allende. Tenemos varias caras nuevas que hoy se unen a nosotros en este primer servicio conjunto entre las comunidades UU de San Miguel y Lago Chapala. I'd like to welcome back our San Miguel members zooming in from Canada and across the U.S., and welcome our new friends from the Lake Chapala UU Fellowship, and a special welcome to other English and Spanish-speaking UUs we're just beginning to know from Tabasco, Guadalajara, Puerto Vallarta, and Mexico City. Me gustaría dar una bienvenida especial a otros UU de habla española, a quien estamos empezando a conocer. Bienvenido a Rosiello Collado de Tabasco, Jesús Delgado de Guadalajara, y bienvenido a Francisco Lagunes Gaitán de la Ciudad de México. Here you may bring your whole self, no matter what you believe or not, and no matter who you love. You are welcome here with us. We want very much to connect more deeply with our Mexican neighbors because we know that our faith offers important opportunities for personal community and social action. Our hearts are open and our hands are outstretched. Today's service will include hymns and music in both languages, and certain portions of our service will be offered with Spanish translations. This is just a first step, and we have plans for including more Spanish in our future services. Aquí puedes traer todo tu ser completo, sin importar lo que creas o no, y sin importar a quien ames. Eres bienvenido aquí con nosotros. Queremos conectarnos más profundamente con nuestros vecinos mexicanos. Nuestros corazones están abiertos y nuestras manos extendidas. En el servicio hoy habrá música en ambos idiomas y ciertas partes se ofrecen con traducciones. Esto es solo un paso inicial y tenemos planes para incluir más de español en servicios futuros. Please get to know us. Visit our website at uufsma.org and also visit our YouTube channel under the name UUFSMA, where you can find more than 75 previous services and lectures. Por favor, conózcanos más. Visite nuestro sitio web en uufsma.org. Allí puede encontrar el orden de servicio con un enlace a la traducción en español del sermón. Hoy es un comienzo emocionante de nuevas amistades, nuevas asociaciones y nuevas esperanzas para un futuro juntos. Today is an exciting beginning of new friendships, new partnerships, and new hopes for the future. Welcome to you all. Bienvenidos a ustedes todos. And now we go to my new friend, Kathy Coaches, from Lake Chapala's UU Fellowship.
Good morning. Bienvenidos. My name is Kathy Coaches, and I'm a member of the Lake Chapala Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I want to warmly welcome all of you at this joint service between the UU Fellowship of San Miguel de Allende and the Lake Chapala UU Fellowship. While the two fellowships work together to prepare this service, the service itself is much larger than just the two congregations. This service is about everyone who identifies as a Unitarian Universalist in Mexico and in lands beyond. And so we offer a generous and heartfelt welcome to everyone who has joined us today, whomever you are and wherever you hail from. At the Lake Chapala Fellowship, we usually show our announcements on slides before the service. We didn't do that today, but we will send our announcements tomorrow in our sharing email. If you would like to receive these emails, write to us at info@lakechapallauu.org. That's info@lakechapallauu.org. And now let us join our voices together for our opening hymn, so appropriately named, Come, Come, Whoever You Are.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of living, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of evil, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of evil, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come yet again, come yet again,
I'm the Reverend Tom Rosiello, the minister of the UU Fellowship of San Miguel de Allende, and so glad to be together with you this morning. The words that you just heard sung of the Sufi poet Rumi that opened up our service remind us that many of us have been wanderers. Some of us do have multi-generational roots here in Mexico, but so many of us left other places to come here, many in just the past few years. Some of us too have been religious wanderers, perhaps raised in a faith tradition which we have left behind and now found one that fits us better. Some have brought our UU faith tradition with us to Mexico. Others have found Unitarian Universalism here. But now we're part of a caravan moving forward here in Mexico. We're all together on a sacred journey, held together by UU values and principles, committed to constantly creating, recreating, and expanding the beloved community here in Mexico. The message that you are welcome in our congregations, no matter who you are, defines us, excites us, and challenges us. No matter your race, your nationality, your sexual orientation, your gender identification, your theology, your financial resources or lack thereof, you are welcome to take part in this exciting journey. With hope and joy, we gather together today from different parts of Mexico in this unique form of worship. We do so to support each other and to invite each other to walk together on a path of hope, love, service, and justice. So come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come.
Las palabras que Rumi dan inicio a nuestro servicio nos recuerdan que muchos de nosotros hemos sido nómadas. Algunos tenemos raíces multigeneracionales aquí en México, pero muchos de nosotros hemos dejado otros lugares y hemos venido aquí, y muchos en tan solo pocos años. Algunos de nosotros también hemos sido nómadas religiosos, quizás criados en otras tradiciones que hemos dejado atrás y que ahora encontramos una que se adapta mejor a nosotros. Algunos han traído nuestra fe yuyu con nosotros a México. Otros han encontrado el universalismo unitario aquí. Ahora somos parte de una caravana que avanza en México. Estamos todos juntos en un viaje sagrado, unidos por los valores y principios del universalismo unitario, comprometidos a crear, recrear y expandir constantemente nuestra querida comunidad aquí en México. El mensaje "Eres bienvenido en nuestras congregaciones sin importar quién" nos define, nos emociona y nos desafía. No importa tu raza, tu nacionalidad, tu orientación sexual, tu identificación de género, tu teología, tus recursos financieros o tu falta de ellos. Eres bienvenido a participar en este emocionante viaje. Con esperanza y alegría, reunimos hoy desde diferentes partes de México en nuestra distintiva forma de adoración religiosa para apoyarnos unos a los otros e invitarnos a caminar juntos en el sendero de la esperanza, del amor, de la justicia. Así que ven, quien quiera que seas, nómada, devoto, amante de la partida.
The chalice is a symbol of our faith. Its flame is like a beacon, calling us into connection, inviting us into deeper relationship with one another. It's light, carrying the promise that by journeying together, we will go farther, higher, deeper than journeying apart. As wanderers, as worshipers, we follow the flame, letting it guide us into the communities of promise and hope. Let us kindle the flames of our chalices.
El cáliz es un símbolo de nuestra fe. Su llama es como un faro, llamándonos a la conexión, invitándonos a una relación más profunda entre nosotros. Su luz lleva la promesa de que viajando juntos iremos más lejos, más alto, más profundamente que viajar por separado. Como nómadas, como feligreses, seguimos la llama, guiándonos hacia nuestras comunidades de promesa y esperanza. Encendamos las llamas de nuestros cálices.
We hope that today's service provides a way for folks from Lake Chapala and the UU Fellowship of San Miguel de Allende to get to know each other, and also a way for other UUs and UU-affiliated groups in Mexico and really all over the US and Canada as well to get to know us and to connect with us. The old saying goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So with that in mind, our two fellowships have created slideshows to introduce themselves. I invite you now to meet the folks and get a bit of the flavor of the UU communities of Lake Chapala and San Miguel de Allende, Mexico.
Our hymn today is Danos un Corazón, Give Us a Strong Heart. This was written by Juan Antonio Espinosa, a leading liturgical composer in Spain, and appears in our Spanish language hymnal, Las Voces del Camino. Please join us in singing.
Corazón grande para amar, danos un corazón fuerte para luchar, danos un corazón grande para amar, danos un corazón fuerte para luchar. Mujeres nuevas, creadoras de la historia, constructoras de nueva humanidad. Mujeres nuevas que viven la existencia como riesgo de un largo caminar. Danos un corazón grande para amar, danos un corazón fuerte para luchar. Mujeres nuevas luchando en esperanza, caminantes sedientas de verdad. Mujeres nuevas sin frenos ni cadenas, mujeres libres que exigen libertad. Danos un corazón, danos un corazón para amar, danos un corazón fuerte para luchar. Mujeres nuevas amando sin fronteras, por encima de razas y lugar. Mujeres nuevas al lado de los jóvenes, compartiendo con ellos leche y pan. Danos un corazón para amar, danos un corazón fuerte para luchar, danos un corazón grande para amar, danos un corazón fuerte para
Good morning. I'm Bonnie McDowell, a member of the San Miguel Fellowships Board and of our COVID-19 Task Force, a group of medical professionals and care team members with expertise we hope will be helpful for you during this pandemic. Happily, the seniors in San Miguel got their second shots this week. Lake Chapala is still waiting for their second round, hopefully very soon. Remember, it takes 2 more weeks for your body to build its full response to that second shot. So please don't think you're fully protected right away. For San Miguelenses, that's not until May 5th. Overall, scientists continue to see the protection for fully vaccinated people is very good. But there have been some recent studies which show more breakthrough cases in seniors after full vaccination. In some, it seems that variants of the virus were able to cause infection despite full vaccination. Another possibility is that older folks, like many of us, may produce a weaker response to any vaccine and therefore have less protection. Our immune system ages just like the rest of our body. Although they quote a 95% effective rate for the vaccines, it might be more like 65% in seniors. The lesson I take away from these reports is that we, the seniors, should plan to resume social interactions with caution, perhaps more cautiously than the general advice from the CDC. One guideline I like to follow is the 2 out of 3 rule. There are 3 main protections we can use: be outdoors, keep a 6-foot distance, and wear a well-fitted mask. Always do at least 2 of them. So if you're gathering outdoors, you need either masks or distance, but perhaps not both. But if you're indoors or you're in a poorly ventilated outdoor space, you still need masks and distance. Please try to keep your social gatherings small. Avoid large groupings of people. And whenever you're around unvaccinated people, it's crucial to continue using full precautions to protect yourself and them. Remember, only a very small percentage of the population in Mexico is vaccinated at this point in time. And even when we're fully vaccinated, we will still need to work at staying safe ourselves and protecting those around us. If each of us would think twice before we jump into some new type of social activity, one we would not have thought of doing 2 months ago, we can continue helping to put the brakes on this pandemic, which unfortunately is still raging around the globe. But fortunately, we have each other for support and encouragement. Stay safe, my friends. And now we go to Reverend Tom Rosiello for some thoughts about our fellowship's covenant.
Each week in our service at the UU Fellowship of San Miguel Allende, we together recite our covenant both in English and in Spanish. Now, the practice of reciting a covenant is something you'll find in most UU services. Rather than a creed, which is a commonly held set of beliefs that people recite, it's a covenant, a set of promises we make of how we will be with each other. A statement, if you will, of shared commitment that binds us together. It's more than a mission statement or a set of flowery words. It's a fundamental statement upon which we build our community. Every UU congregation can adopt or create its own covenant as they choose, but many do adopt a similar one. Probably the most common one today in UU congregations is the Blake Covenant that begins with the words, "Love is the spirit of this church and service its law." I know many of you have been involved in congregations where they use this one. Several years ago, the San Miguel congregation wrote and adopted its own covenant. I now invite you to join Paula and Diego in reciting the covenant both in English and in Spanish. The words will appear on your screen momentarily.
We respect the interdependent web of life and work for a just and peaceful world. We encourage the search for truth and meaning, strive for compassion in our relationships, and seek values that will benefit our lives and the lives of others. This is our covenant.
Respetamos todos los estilos de vida dentro de su red interdependiente y trabajamos por un mundo justo y pacífico. Alentamos la búsqueda de la verdad y la comprensión total. Nos esforzamos por mantener compasión en nuestras relaciones y buscamos valores que beneficien nuestras vidas y las vidas de los demás. Este es nuestro convenio.
Each week, we take time to remind ourselves that we belong to communities which care for each other. We do this by sharing any significant joys, sorrows, or concerns in our lives. Some of you may have already sent items to us by email, and we'll read those now. But also, if you have a joy, a sorrow, or a concern that you would like to share today, you can type it into the chat now, and we will read those aloud very soon.
I would like to share some of the joys, sorrows, and concerns from the San Miguel congregation. The first one is a very personal one. My dad passed away early this week. I light this candle in his memory and in gratitude for his life, and also very much with gratitude to the many, many of you who have sent me notes of comfort and support this week. They're much appreciated. Our second candle is one of caring and concern for our president, Dan Neuspiel. Dan had to return to the hospital a second time with additional complications from surgery. It has been a rough recovery, and he and Kathy will be away from San Miguel longer than expected. We send our heartfelt get well wishes to Dan for a speedy recovery and support to both Kathy and Dan. If you wish to send him a get well message, that's fine, but please understand his energy is limited and he will not be able to reply to your questions or messages. Our third candle is for someone who's happily with us today, Trish Schneider, who's out of the hospital and in rehab in Texas after repair of her broken hip. She's doing great, as we can all see, and she and Dick plan to return to San Miguel soon to continue rehab. This candle is for Rosalie Gifford, who after a stay in the hospital this week is doing better. Arlene tells me she's on new meds and has a new oxygen machine. So we send our support to Rosalie and to Arlene. And now to Pamela to share some joy, sorrows, and concerns from the chat and from the fellowship at Lake Chapala.
From Catherine Luria, she has a joy. Catherine had successful emergency surgery to repair her detached retina on Monday night and is doing well. Another joy from Lou and Trudy, asked to light a candle of joy because longtime member Carol Powell is returning to Ahihi next Sunday. And members Roy Haynes and David Hudnall celebrate their 6th wedding anniversary tomorrow and 22 years of being together. There are more joys that came into chat. David Lippman has come through treatment successfully and has been released until his next 6-month checkup. Yay, from Tricia. Cher Davidson, I think this is from North. What a joy it is to see old friends in San Miguel. She's been away for a while. And a joy from Hannah and Howard Frederick. Packing is done, and we arrive back in Ahihi on May 1st. They look forward to emerging from their cocoon amongst you all. Nora has a concern for her daughter who has not been able to find a good job. From Mardell Harland, a joy. Mardell turned 80 yesterday. She is grateful to still be alive, and we're grateful too, and she still enjoys life. And let me just check, there are some more joys, Joni. My sister Cheryl is recovering from a difficult COVID illness, and her daughter Katie is safe at home after her recent hospitalization, a difficult 2 weeks. I think I'll save the rest for Tom, but let me just go to some sorrow. Bob Coaches, please light a candle of sorrow as he's lost 2 friends whose friendships have lasted over 51 years. And Colleen Beery has concern for her daughter and her boyfriend who are going through a rough patch. And Lynn and Gary Cleek have a concern. Please don't let your guard down with COVID. Our 40-year-old daughter had COVID in November, then had both Pfizer shots in March, and now has COVID again. This time, it's 2 new strains. Please don't get complacent. We are better, but this is not over yet. And Tom, there's more things in chat. Do you want to pick that up? It looks like San Miguel de Allende.
Deanna, would you like to read? There's a couple in Spanish, one from you and one below. Would you like to share the one in Spanish there?
Yes, of course. Una alegría por compartir es por nuestros compañeros unitarios de habla hispana que nos acompañan el día de hoy. Bienvenidos.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Elisa nos comenta, bienvenidos amigos hispanohablantes.
I'm not sure. I also saw one that I believe came from Costa Rica. I'm scrolling through as it's coming down. Here it is. It says, we are Julio and Elsa, the coordinators of Unitarian Universalists in Costa Rica. Our joy is having the opportunity of joining this inspirational service. We didn't know. That's a wonderful, wonderful addition. There are several others. I'm going to let folks, I'm afraid they're scrolling down too quickly. I see a gracias from Rosiello, and we really appreciate all of these that are here, and I think we'll go to Matt for our final candle to collect them all.
And this final candle represents those sorrows that are too raw, too difficult for us to share aloud. So many of us have had losses, partners, children, grandchildren, losses that remain present with us every day. So many of us have burdens, anger, fear, and frustration, all of those things that weigh heavily on our hearts. We will light this candle, which is behind me, for all of these unspoken sorrows. And let us now enter into a brief time of silent meditation, followed by music. During this time of silence, our time of silence, I invite you to reflect on the people who were named in our joys and sorrows, if you know them, or on the conditions and situations that were named. For those situations, trials, and triumphs, these are common to all of us. Let us remember the depth of connection we have with each other and how such connections enrich our lives. And now for our musical meditation, we listen to the beautiful bilingual words of Fuente de Amor, Spirit of Life.
Good morning. I'm Becky Langrel, Chair of the Social Action Committee for our fellowship here in San Miguel de Allende. Most Sundays when we introduce the offering, we feature a social service agency our fellowship supports, whose aim is to lift the quality of life for those in need living in and around San Miguel. Today, though, I would like to speak generally about the fellowship's commitment to social action. For many years, we have given away half of our projected income to social service agencies, even in this pandemic year. At our annual meeting last month, through the generosity of the fellowship, we approved the allocation of over $56,000 in grants to support 12 social service agencies dedicated to providing access to clean water, childcare, support for children's health, community development, ecology, education of the disabled, food equity, family housing, literacy, and scholarships for college students and girls. This past year, as you can imagine, to address the surge in needs associated with the pandemic, many agencies were forced to reach a new level of improvisation and determination. We too, by donating all of the collection plate once a quarter through what we call our Blue Plate specials, have, in addition to our grants, been able to step up and respond flexibly to the needs of the moment. Most recently, to support local mask making, purchase of computers for remote learning, and to give to our emergency response organization, Cruz Roja. Beyond this, when food insecurity reached horrific levels last summer, individuals from our fellowship personally responded with an additional donation totaling over more than $85,000. In line with our second UU principle, to seek justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, we donate freely and wholeheartedly. For, to quote Winston Churchill, we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. This morning's offering will now be very gratefully received. Thank you.
This is the time in our service when we ask that you remember that we share our gifts here through pledging and donations. We are not meeting in person right now, but our connections to each other and our contributions to the community still continue. Instructions for payment to the fellowship will be on a slide during the music to follow. And while you are considering your gifts to the fellowship, please remember that each month LCUUF donates 5,000 pesos or more to an organization providing food in our lakeside community. For the month of April, we have been supporting Poco a Poco San Pedro, which works with poor communities east of Chapala. You can donate specifically to Poco a Poco in the same way you donate to the fellowship. Just make a donation, make a note with your donation of which portion should go to Poco a Poco. We are grateful for all your support and we welcome your gifts. Thank you.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live.
There you are, Matt. It's great
Hey,
to
Tom.
share this reflection on Unitarian Universalism in Mexico with you. You know you can never put UUs in a box, and as soon as you ascribe some common characteristic to the group, the exception will emerge. But nonetheless, I do believe there are some characteristics that many UUs in Mexico share, and I think they're worth reflecting upon. Perhaps even more important are some of the aspirations I'm guessing that we share. I don't know about you, but I've always had a sense that even though we're small here, that there's something important, that we represent something important. And also I have the sense that we could be more than we are in so many ways. I think coming together as different congregations within Mexico and also with other UUs or those in Mexico who find common ground and share values with us is a first step. My congregation here in San Miguel has expressed an interest in being better connected with other Unitarian Universalists, especially in Mexico, and also opening our doors wider to others who might find a spiritual home with us if we made it a bit easier for them to do that. What about you, Matt?
Tom, you're absolutely right. When I think about this pandemic, I realize that for all the hardship and suffering that it has brought, there are some gifts that came with it. One of those gifts is realizing that it is easier than ever for us to all be connected online. At Lake Chapala UU, we've had, and I know you've had at San Miguel de Allende, online participants that have started to come to your services. People who couldn't otherwise engage in with a UU congregation, perhaps because there is no congregation where they live, are able to do so now. People who might just want to check us out, to, in a safe way, see what Unitarian Universalism is about, can visit us easily and comfortably from their own homes. Plus, I hope and dream about the possibility that we can work together, our two congregations, along with others, on things that we value that are larger than us. Perhaps we can work with other emerging congregations, even small groups of just a few UUs in various places in Mexico and further away. And so I'm excited about that we're making this new connection today, this online connection with you and UUs everywhere in Mexico and beyond. But that begs the question, who are we as UUs here in Mexico? It's hard for me to generalize beyond this congregation I serve. And I don't want to make limiting assumptions. Do you want to start that discussion, Tom?
Sure, Matt. You know, we do have some folks who are Mexican in the sense that they were born and raised in Mexico, perhaps lived here their whole life, and found Unitarian Universalism here within our congregations. In fact, those folks are increasing in our UU community. But you and I and most of the members of our congregation were born and raised and lived much of our lives elsewhere. Some of us brought our Unitarian Universalism here with us, while others discovered this faith tradition for the first time after they got to Mexico. I did a very informal poll of those who come from elsewhere to make their full-time or part-time home here in Mexico. Many of us are retired or semi-retired, while others have jobs that they can do from anywhere in the world. Some are artists, inspired by the light and beauty of our places, and many others are here working in the trenches of social justice. The reason we came to Mexico, the many reasons, are varied. For some it was the weather, others the cost of living, a way to stretch that retirement dollar, while others wanted the challenge of living in a country that spoke a different language and had a different culture. Some wanted to get out of the bubble of living in the US or Canada. Some were sick of the politics in their homeland. Some wanted to raise their children biculturally as citizens of the world. Some of us were even forced to move to Mexico, deported here. Matt, it might be interesting to learn from our listeners this morning the reasons why they live in Mexico. Can we do that?
So yeah, let's ask that question. Why are you living in Mexico? We'll use the poll feature in Zoom Diana will now put up a poll question. Now, this polling is not perfect, but it'll give us a good idea why folks are here. Use your mouse or touch your screen to choose an answer, and then use the submit button. I think it's a submit button. It's different on my screen here. If you're watching with another person, we did set it up so you can choose 2 different answers, if that fits. Now, like I said, the polling is not perfect, but it'll give us a quick idea about everyone here. I'm going to read the questions out loud as you think about them. The reason I live in Mexico is A, I am Mexican and was born here. B, I was no longer happy living in my home country. C, the cost of living. D, the beautiful weather. And E, I wanted something new, like language or culture. So let me take a little pause while you select your answers. And also, if you have a question about the poll or you want to make a response that we didn't include, you can type a little note into chat. Is there much change happening? It looks like most people have completed the poll. Diana, will you please share the results?
Thank you, Deanna. We've got a pretty good distribution among the categories there. Leading was the no longer happy living in their home country, but many others in other categories as well. And of course, some people may not have been able to participate. But what I think the poll suggests overall is that we're pretty privileged living here. Deanna, you can take the poll down now.
I think it's...
Can you take the poll down, please?
Oh, it's down now. You need to close it.
Oh, I'm
Enter
sorry.
a post.
Okay.
I see. We didn't try that. Okay. Well, you know, like those who go to the US or Canada from Mexico or Central America, most of us made a choice to come here. But our choice was very different than the tough choices made by those trying to cross the border in the other direction. Most of us have been warmly welcomed by the local community, and the government of Mexico has made it pretty easy for us to stay here. This is very different from what's happening to those going the other way. For reasons of wealth or race, many of us occupy a place of privilege here in Mexico and in other countries that welcome foreign residents. Often we live at a higher standard than locals do, and we are often thought of differently. Matt, I know you have some thoughts on this notion of who we are and how we view ourselves and others like us. Why don't you pick it up here?
So like many of you, as a person who has moved here, I've given much thought to who I am here. What is my status? What do I call myself when I talk with people either here or up north? Consider the word expat. Expat was certainly a term I'd used for a long time to describe family and friends who moved around on various temporary international assignments. I called myself an expat when I was on a brief assignment in Singapore. So when the Lake Chapala congregation was described to me as being made up primarily of expats from the US and Canada, a few from Europe, I adopted that phrase. Yet when I mentioned this to colleagues in the USA that I served an expat congregation in Mexico, the response I got from some of them was kind of a coolness, even polite disdain. I couldn't put my finger on the reaction. And then I encountered an article in the Guardian newspaper from a few years ago. This article was titled, "Why Are White People Expats When the Rest of Us Are Immigrants?" This was by Mauna Remarque Cotunin of Toboko in West Africa. Cotunin writes, "Africans are immigrants, Arabs are immigrants, Asians are immigrants. However, Europeans are expats. because they can't be at the same level as other ethnicities. They are superior. Immigrants is a term set aside for inferior races. I realized that the word expat does carry a tinge of racism. I decided to stop using it to describe myself. Instead, I'm using the more general word migrant. I am a migrant in Mexico, serving a congregation primarily made up of migrants. I use that word migrant to be in solidarity with migrants everywhere. Changing my language is a small step, but it is a step, for our words matter. Tom, what do you think? How do you describe yourself?
Well, Matt, you make an important point. My personal way of viewing myself in Mexico is as a guest, and I think that shapes how I interact with the local community. Also, during the Trump years, I often viewed myself as an apologist for the U.S. You know, not all the people in the U.S. are like that. But all this discussion leads me to think about how our identity as Unitarian Universalists shapes who we are here, and what that can mean, or maybe what that challenges us to be. For many of us living in a foreign country, our UU community is important and comforting to have for ourselves personally, for our mutual support. But I hope it is and can grow to be much more than that. I think a lot about the question, how are we living our UU values, our liberal faith, here in Mexico? Matt, would you like to start us off with that question?
Sure, Tom. Certainly living here as a migrant, as a guest, has taught me a great deal of humility. The culture here in Mexico is quite different from what I was used to in the USA. These days, when I encounter something that just doesn't quite make sense to me, I back off from judging it and try to understand why it might be that way. This kind of self-reflection has also allowed me to look at my own culture from a different perspective, to not assume that it is normative, that it is how the world should be. So concepts like world community and the interdependent web and inherent worth and dignity have taken on a different coloring for me as a consequence of living in Mexico. I'm also very fascinated how Unitarian Universalism might be adapted by those of Mexican heritage in response to the culture here. After all, Unitarianism and Universalism each were transformed when they were brought over from Europe to North America. So I expect a similar transformation might happen here. Let me give you just a tiny example about one thing in Unitarian Universalism that might be important here in Mexico. I was looking at the Facebook pages of various UU groups in Mexico, and one had a video, a great video, with this tagline, "No somos ovejas," we are not sheep. It was a fantastic video, but that line, "No somos ovejas," hooked me. I realized that as a minister, I sometimes get labeled as a pastor, a shepherd, but that's not how I see myself. Then I realized that in a largely Catholic culture like this one, the role of the Catholic priest is vastly different from my role as a minister, which I see as much more facilitative. And so a faith like Unitarian Universalism can be seen as incredibly freeing and attractive to many. I mean, here's a faith where you're encouraged to reason for yourself, to do your own theological exploration. You're invited to involve yourself in the leadership of the movement, to be active in making genuine social change. And so we are not sheep, and we expect those around us who come into Unitarian Universalism are not sheep either, blindly following some flock that has gone before. And together, we'll create a Unitarian Universalism that is transformed for Mexico. Tom?
You know, Matt, many of my friends in the Mexican community, when they were introduced to Unitarian Universalism, were actually astonished to learn that there is a religion where, in your words, Matt, you don't have to be sheep. You don't have to believe as you are told, where you can bring your free-thinking mind and still be part of the beloved community, and they were drawn to what that offered. We do have differences in language and culture, but we share so much in common with these folks, and with the advances of technology, it's easier and easier to work together. There is so much that we can do, not just for, but with the Mexican community to help those in need. Here in San Miguel, our social justice programs, both with grants and volunteers, have been supporting and working with Mexicans to make our UU values and principles real. But it's not just about funding worthy projects or even about volunteering. We're coming to a new place. We're working to change ourselves so that we can be more welcoming to Mexicans. We're working on making our services more bilingual, with more translation available, and we're addressing topics of concern to everyone in Mexico. The contributions of Mexican performers and composers, even poets and thinkers, and those who are doing the work in every area of social justice, from domestic abuse to climate change, are sharing in the leading of our services. We are slowly coming to recognize something that is fundamental to Unitarian Universalism. There is no us and them. We are all one. I also think that there are some particular groups in the Mexican population for whom we could be especially appealing. UUs have always made a place for culturally diverse families. You know, when I was a kid, you used to hear it said that Unitarians were the home for mixed marriages, a place where parents who come from different religious backgrounds, want to raise their children not in one or the other, but with respect for both, would join our congregations. And of course, we still offer that, but much more than that. Here in Mexico, I believe that we have a calling to embrace other diversity, to reach out to individuals who may be ostracized from the religion of their childhood because of what they believe, who they are, or who they love. I know of no other religion here in Mexico that actively seeks to be a spiritual home for the LGBTQ Mexican community. A few years ago, I spoke at a benefit for a teen gay drop-in center here in San Miguel and was disturbed by the number of kids who had been thrown out of their homes simply because they were gay. And these kids are often terribly abused with almost no place to turn to. Why are we not doing more here? We could. This is just one group we might welcome through our doors. There are so many opportunities for Unitarian Universalism in Mexico. What do you see for possibilities on the horizon, Matt?
Tom, I agree. And your point about LGBTQ folks is particularly compelling. But we could be very much a place for many who have no other place, whether in families or societies as a whole. And I don't think the question of language or cultural difference is insurmountable. Look, I belong to another organization here that was imported from the north, and it's been quite successful here in Mexico because it fulfills a need. This organization is based on small groups, and so there are Spanish-speaking groups and English-speaking groups, and a few that try to do both. When larger gatherings are organized, even online, they've made heroic efforts to provide translation, even online translation, so everyone could participate. I think here we could do the same, and perhaps technology could help too. There are lots of possibilities, opportunities for UUism in Mexico. So what should be our priorities? Once again, I think we should ask this morning's congregation, this gathered group, to help us answer that question. Diana, would you please put up the second poll question? Again, you can select one or more from the choices below and use your mouse or touch screen and be sure to select submit when you are done. So here are the options that I would like for you to consider. I would be interested in participating in focusing on the English, this is number A, letter A, focusing on the English-speaking UU community, growing the Mexican UU community, that's B, Building bicultural and bilingual congregations. D, supporting marginalized Mexican communities like LGBTQ folks. And E, using technology to create international UU communities. And so again, I'll give us a little time here, and we'll see how this goes as people continue to answer those questions. And then Tom, I'll hand it back to you to end the polling.
Great, Matt. They're still coming in, so we'll let it tick for a little bit.
Excellent. And again, if you have special notes, just drop them into chat.
These are interesting results that are merging. Lots of support for building bicultural and bilingual congregations is at number one, and supporting marginalized Mexican communities like LGBTQ folks certainly right on its heels is high priority. Okay, Diana, I think we'll end the poll there. Definitely some interesting results, Matt. And thank you, Diana, for doing this again for us. I hope we can continue, and you can take the poll down now that we've all seen it. I hope we can continue this discussion at a deeper level in our breakout rooms after the service. I think we've explored and gained quite a bit of insight on who we are and what we aspire to as UUs here in Mexico. So where do we go from here? Where do we go to make some of these things a reality? The next question for us is really, what are we willing to do? It's a question for us as individuals and as communities of Unitarian Universalists. So Matt, why don't you take it from here?
So one of the things we often try to do at the end of a sermon or a talk, if you prefer, and yes, we are nearing the end, is to include some kind of call to action. A call to action is a request to you, the listener, to think about something or to go do something or to change something in your life. It's a takeaway. So our final poll question is, in part, our call to action. Our final poll question will help us determine where we go next, because it's more than just asking you your preferences. This question asks you what you might be willing to do to participate. Because to be honest, to accomplish great things, we're going to have many hands. We're going to have to work together. So Diana, would you please post question 3, and I'll read it aloud. And then we'll wait for people to answer. Now, obviously, this is anonymous, so we're not going to know exactly what you said yes to, but it's a starting point. It'll give us an idea of where the energy is, the passion for working together. Let me read these questions again as you review them. So I'd like to participate in planning an all-Mexico UU gathering. That's A. B, sharing resources and best practices among our congregations. C, would be a shared social justice project or initiative. D, helping UU congregations in Mexico be more welcoming to all, both Mexicans and migrants. And E, helping small UU groups in Mexico to become congregations. And then finally, F, publicizing and educating folks in Mexico about Unitarian Universalism. And what are you thinking of the results, Tom?
Well, they're certainly coming in, Matt, and we remind folks that they can vote for more than one, especially if there are more than one of them viewing. That the poll will receive that if they select 2 or whatever. So we just remind them of that. I'm seeing a lot of distribution from a shared social justice project, probably leading, to helping UU congregations in Mexico. But we're still ticking away. So please continue to record your answers if you haven't yet. We'll give it a few more minutes, or a few more seconds anyway. A little surprised we didn't have more on planning an all UU gathering, because I'd heard a lot of talk about that before. But maybe that's part of some of the others. Let's see. Well, I think we should move towards the end. I'll leave it open a little bit longer while I continue to talk. What I basically would observe, it looks like we have plenty to talk about in our breakout rooms after the service and as we move forward. So let's close the poll at this point, Deanna, and it doesn't mean we've got everybody in, but we've got some indication. And we can see the results here. Great. And why don't we take them down now? You know, Matt, I think that we agree. This is a very exciting time for Unitarian Universalism in Mexico. I think it's time for us to thrive. I think of the possibilities, the lives we could make better, richer, the more justice work done, the greater understanding of who we are as Unitarian Universalists here in Mexico. As we proceed on this journey, there certainly will be challenges, but I'm convinced that we can meet them. Think about it. If we do this work, what it will mean, what message will it send, and how we shall be known.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn
Thank you for being with us today and participating in starting a Mexican UU connection all across Mexico and well beyond. We hope you'll stay on for Zoom after the service to share your thoughts about the ideas raised in today's service with old friends and new ones. You'll be able to join a breakout room for a small group discussion, or if you wish, you can stay in the main room with Matt and myself. And if you are Spanish speaking, please stay in the main room and we'll try to have a bilingual person there to aid in conversation. We'll all come back together in the main room before we end. I think today especially, we feel the truth of those words we just heard beautifully sung. Indeed, we shall be known by the company we keep, with whom we share our faith, and how we use our gifts and our time will define us. So let us end with a benediction to guide us as we move ahead, for it is our time to thrive here in Mexico. These words are from the Facebook page of a small group of Unitarian Universalists in Guadalajara. Use your voice for kindness, your ears for compassion, your hands for charity, your mind for truth, and your heart for love.
Gracias por estar con nosotros el día de hoy e iniciar una conexión unitaria en todo México. Esperamos que permanezcan en Zoom después del servicio para compartir sus opiniones sobre las ideas que hoy fueron planteadas con tus antiguos y nuevos amigos. Podrás unirte a un grupo de discusión o, si lo deseas, puedes quedarte en la sala principal con Matt y Tom. Si hablas español, permanece en la sala principal y tendremos un grupo bilingüe para ayudar y entablar una conversación. Al finalizar los grupos, todos nos reuniremos en la sala principal para finalizar nuestro tiempo juntos. Creo que hoy especialmente sentimos la veracidad de esas palabras que fueron bellamente cantadas. Ciertamente, seremos conocidos por la compañía que procuramos, con quienes compartimos nuestra fe. La forma en que usemos nuestro don y nuestro tiempo nos definirá. Así que terminemos con una bendición que nos guíe a medida en que avanzamos, porque es hora de que prosperemos aquí en México. Las siguientes palabras son de la página de Facebook de un pequeño grupo de unitarias en Guadalajara. Usa tu voz para la bondad, tus oídos para la compasión, tus manos para la caridad, tu mente para la verdad y tu corazón para el amor.
Let us extinguish our chalices, and as we do so, let us read these words together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we keep in our hearts and share with all the world.
Es hora de apagar nuestros cálices. Mientras lo hacemos, leamos estas palabras juntos. Apagamos esta llama, pero no la luz de la verdad, la calidez de la comunidad o el fuego del compromiso. Estos los guardamos en nuestro corazón para compartirlos con todo el mundo.
Our postlude today is a song written by the great Northern Irish singer-songwriter Van Morrison. He wrote this in 1989, and it was originally written as his devotion to God, or if you like, a prayer. But it has become one of the most well-known romantic ballads of the past 40 years. It's very often played at weddings, but the lyrics make a special meaning, and I think particularly to this wonderful service we've enjoyed. For example, he says, "Have I told you lately that I love you? Have I told you there's no one above you? Fill my heart with gladness, take away my sadness. ease my troubles, that's what you do. But we can say, ease my troubles, that's what we do. Here is our very own Linda Jessen singing Van Morrison's Have I Told You Lately. She's now back in Canada, but we did record this a few weeks ago, and I'm going to play along with her. Have I Told You Lately by Van Morrison.
There we go. There we go.
Have I told you lately that I love you? Have I told you there's no one above you? Fill my heart with gladness, take away the sadness, ease my troubles, that's what you do. On the morning sun in all its glory greets the day with hopes and comfort too. You fill my heart with laughter, you can make it better, ease my troubles, that's what you do. There's a love that's divine, and it's yours and it's mine, like the sun. At the end of the day, we should give thanks and pray to the one. There's a love that's divine, and it's yours and it's mine, like the sun. At the end of the day, we should give thanks and pray to the one. Have I told you lately that I love you? Have I told you there's no one above you? Fill my heart with gladness, take away my sadness, ease my troubles, that's what you do.